Thank you so much for joining us today. We're getting started a little bit late here, but we are in the plans section. And this session we'll be covering and talking about unlocking powerful custom apps without code. Now, I know this is a developer conference, so many of you in the room are technical, just came out of the keynote, and excited to hear how you can build really cool things on our platform, type away code. So I really think this section is actually more about developing for dummies. Everything that we will talk about in this section will actually require zero coding experience, minimal technical knowledge whatsoever. And so my name is Karishma Kothari, and this is the agenda that we'll run through today. I'm joined on stage by my colleague, Harrigan, who will help me go through and talk about this. What we really wanted to do with this session is showcase a few of the many partners in our app ecosystem that are focused on enabling you to build really powerful, really custom applications in a way that's as simple as clicking a few buttons. And so to do that, we're going to highlight 3 of our partners, Workato, Troops, and ServiceNow, which some of you in the room may be familiar with, and others you may have never heard of before, and that's OK. We'll actually cover 3 different mini workflows and show you how you can really quickly and easily build those. So to start, we'll do automating employee onboarding with Workato. Then we'll talk a little bit about how you can use Troops, one of our own Slack partners, to streamline the sales cycle. And then I'll pass it over to Rue to talk about managing help desks and approvals with ServiceNow. So Workato. Workato is an integration and an automation platform that allows you to build powerful business applications and connect many of the tools that you already use in your ecosystem today. And they do this with all no code. So the entire premise of their platform is built around this idea that whatever workflow you want to build or whatever enterprise application you want to connect, you can do so in a seamless and easy fashion. So here's a sample workflow that I just kind of wanted to highlight and talk through. Probably many of you in the room, this is something that you go through at your companies from time to time as you grow and expand. And it's a pretty manual and painful process if you think about the experience of onboarding an employee, because fundamentally it requires this marriage of many different systems, your HRIS, whether that's Workday or any other system, Jira, BMC Remedy, ServiceNow, whatever IT ticketing solution that you're using, and then, of course, Active Directory or your LDAP. And that's just a small subset of the applications that are required when you think about the manual process of onboarding every single employee. And so with Workato, what we've kind of outlined here is how through just a few clicks, you can build what Workato calls custom recipes, like any good chef, mixing and matching different applications to automate this process and cut that time down to just a few seconds. So what I'll actually do is jump out of my deck here and jump into some live demo actions. What you're seeing here on the screen is Workato's app directory. So like Slack, they have over 300 different connectors that they work with, many common enterprise applications that you might recognize or use in each of your own companies, right? Tools like Salesforce, NetSuite, SAP, Oracle, ServiceNow, just to name a few. And the idea is through this recipe building exercise, you can mix and match these together and truly customize to your company the right set of instructions that make sense. What I'll actually do is, instead of having you watch me click through building out 20 clicks to a recipe, I'll actually just jump into and show you how easy it is to customize your entire recipe. And so in this flow, as we talked about, what we're going to look at is how can you go from creating an employee in Workday to triggering a process to creating that user in Active Directory, creating an issue ticket in Jira to provision new IT employee, to provision new desktop equipment for them. And so jumping into this particular recipe right here, what you see is every recipe at its core is based on some sort of trigger. So in this case, the trigger, and I'll zoom in for ease of viewing here, the trigger that we're looking at is, hey, a new worker has been created in Workday. So as you saw from the dialog box before, that might just be you click a button through Slack that says, hey, let's begin the process of onboarding that employee. That simple trigger of creating an employee in Workday now allows you to create some pretty complex actions that really can be modified and customized in an order and fashion that makes sense to your company. So the entire premise of Workado's platform is how easy can it be to drag and drop, swap around what I'd like to do. And what you actually will notice here, and I'll just kind of jump here so you can see, all of the actions that we're talking about. So hey, once we've created a user in Workday, let's now go ahead and search for that user, pull them up, and create them in Active Directory. Once we go ahead and create them in Active Directory, let's go ahead and find that user, create a new issue for them so we can start provisioning their hardware devices to get them up and running on day one as a new employee. And kind of scrolling through here, what you'll notice is that it kind of looks like code, right? Anyone who's familiar with code constructs, if this, then that, that's the basic premise that's happening here. But all of this is actually no coding required whatsoever. And when I scroll down to the bottom here, what you'll actually notice is that it's really easy to create new steps and modify what you'd like. So as an example, if I'd like to add a new action in this recipe that I've concocted, I can go ahead, select an app. Maybe I want to add something and kick off a process in air brake. That's entirely possible here through just clicking a simple few buttons. The other thing to note is that a lot of what's important here is how do you customize the notifications that are coming into Slack, right? And so that's important because at the end of the day, the interactions from your employees, whether they're in HR or IT, is all going to be happening through Slack. And Workado makes it really easy to be able to customize what those messages look like. So let me zoom out a little bit here, but you can choose what the app data is that you'd like to pluck in and entirely customize what's the message. So when we think about onboarding a new employee, I might want that text to come in and say, hey, this employee, I'm pulling the first and last name from Workday itself, has just been hired. Now let's go ahead and set up a trigger so you can click some buttons to go ahead and create that user or take the next steps through Active Directory and Jira. All of what you see here is really as simple as choosing the forms that you want, probably easier than any SAT questionnaire that you've had to fill out. And then once you click Save, that recipe is saved, and it's triggered, and it's in process. So the next time someone from HR comes and says, hey, we're onboarding a new employee, we've now taken a really manual process, sometimes that at companies can take multiple days just to get that communication flow going between HR and IT, and shorten that down to seconds. And if we come back to this sort of nice deck here where you can see what that all looks like pulled together, on the front end, it's really simple buttons that you're clicking to approve or take action on items through Workado's platform. Now, taking a step back from onboarding employees, another partner that we wanted to highlight and talk about is Troops. Troops is exclusively kind of heavily focused on empowering and enabling the workflows that exist for people in sales and success roles, really tapping into the customer-facing part of any company and organization. And with Troops, the possibilities are endless, but the premise of the platform is how can we connect some of the applications that people use most regularly in customer-facing roles, in Salesforce, King for CRM solutions, Google Calendar, and then Slack, of course, and use Slack's powerful platform to create what they call custom workflows to be able to take action on leads, update pipeline and log activity, or celebrate success and pipe deal win notifications through. And this is something that's really important because anybody that's worked with a sales organization before knows that at the end of the day, anything that you can do to make sure that your pipeline, your CRM is the source of truth for how the business is doing actually translates to dollars and cents. So if you can integrate a tool into your Slack ecosystem that allows your reps to manage their leads quicker, reach out to new leads, update their pipeline, let sales leadership know, hey, this opportunity is pushing out a few months, or hey, we're bringing some things in, that's a big win for sales organizations, and we've seen a ton of success with our joint customers who are using these platforms together. Again, what I'd like to do is actually jump out of slides for a second and walk you through the simplicity of navigating Troops' interface. Similar to the way in which Workado has this concept of recipes and recipes that you can build based off an if this, then that type trigger, Troops has what's called a workflow library. And this workflow library really has a bunch of pre-built and pre-configured types of activities that people commonly want to automate into Slack. For historical context, some of these notifications would otherwise either not come at all or be pushed into an endless sea of email where they're getting lost in the swarm. And you can see that the roles here, they've kind of broken it down by, here are some common workflows for people in the sales workflows, and then here are some common things that might be relevant to someone in customer success, support, or your C-suite. If we look back at kind of the workflow that we outlined and some of the options, I just wanted to showcase how quick and simple it is to connect these applications together. So looking at that lead conversion workflow, what you can actually do is create notifications into Slack that are actionable, that look just like this, through a simple few clicks of a button. And so I'll just come here to say, hey, create workflow. And now again, what you're noticing is that this entire interface is very intuitive, right? No coding required whatsoever. And it's just based off of the simple notion of if something happens, if a trigger takes place in Salesforce, let's build and decide what should the reaction and thing that gets pushed into Slack look like. So in this case, I'm going to say, hey, if there's a new lead, it's not an empty lead, it's an actual qualified lead. I'd like to either post a new message into Slack or maybe spin up a new deal room or a new channel specific to this lead. As many of you in the room might know, Salesforce is a very customizable platform. There's hundreds and hundreds of different custom objects and fields that you can bring in. And one thing Troops allows you to do is really customize and choose what are the key attributes that you'd like to pipe into Slack. So maybe I don't care as much about lead emails, but I care about lead companies, and I want to add in something like, let's say, what country the lead is based in. And maybe that's the logic that I use to route an SDR from the Americas region or an SDR from the EMEA region who should take over that activity. All of that's customizable. And again, all I have to do is click to save this workflow. And we're now creating that healthy marriage, piping information from Salesforce into Slack through Troops' entirely customizable platform. I'll just show one other example of Troops' platform to give you a sense of how quick and easy it is to do this. So let's take a look at logging meetings from Google Calendar and Salesforce. This is one that not only brings in Salesforce, but it's also reading your calendar and looking at, for sales reps, what are the meetings that they're going out in the field and having on a day-to-day basis, and how can you use Troops to empower your sales reps to go in, modify, and log activity against opportunities that they're working. And so to create this workflow right here, again, very simple. You see the options are a little bit different, but highly customizable down to what email addresses do you want to exclude from the calendar to how often do you want these notifications to be triggered. And so the minute you click to create this workflow again, you're really effectively piecing together your entire sales process or parts of your sales workflow that you want to automate using Troops' powerful platform, and not a line of code required, which is great. What I'd like to do now is bring you back here. You can kind of see visually how these come together. All of these are just notifications, and you can customize the channels that they come into Slack, similar to what you can do with Workato and ServiceNow as well. I'd like to actually introduce Rue on stage, who's going to talk to us a little bit about ServiceNow and some of the customization options available with that platform.
Thanks, Karishma. Yeah, yes, thank you. This is a picture of me before the incident. Sorry, the incident being a haircut. Hi, everyone. My name's Rue Harrigan. I'm an engineer on the platform team here at Slack. If you joined us for our last conference called Frontiers last fall, you might remember that we were very proud to announce a partnership with ServiceNow. I had the privilege of being the technical lead on that partnership and working with the ServiceNow engineering team to make a change to our app creation flow that allows enterprise partners like ServiceNow to build an app on the Slack platform and distribute it via their multi-instance architecture. So ServiceNow, like many enterprise software companies, ships software per instance, per customer. And coming soon in their summer London release, they will be shipping a Slack app as part of their next launch. So during the work on that partnership, I got to learn a lot about how ServiceNow serves a huge variety of business needs. And now the app's coming directly to their customers this summer, so we're excited to talk a little bit more about how you can configure and customize ServiceNow to pipe information into Slack. So if you're familiar with ServiceNow, you're probably familiar with managing notifications for security incidents. That's kind of one of their bread and butter examples. Because London's not out yet, I can't jump out and show you in ServiceNow how this will work, but I do have some screenshots from the builders. So you can see here on the left in ServiceNow, just a snippet of the message content builder here, where you might begin configuring a security incident notification. You can update some general information about the incident and also put in a nice URI reference. And then in the messaging channels selector here, what's happening behind the scenes is ServiceNow is calling channels.list, grabbing all the public channels that are available on the Slack team you're connecting to. This is a very small team, only has 4 channels, so we would be, of course, selecting the security incidents channel here, and then on the right-hand side, you see the message piping into Slack. A new high-priority security incident has been created. As part of the ServiceNow configuration for a notification like this, you can choose pretty much every different element that you see on the screen. You can make a workflow choice about whether and how that incident notification occurs. So you could say, okay, I only want to notify for priority 1 and priority 2 instance. I want to send this message via direct message to a user. I want to send it to a group. I want to send it to a public channel, et cetera. And then here in the notification, in Slack, if you need more information about the incident, you can click on that hyperlink and jump back to your ServiceNow instance. So that's a pretty standard incoming webhook, right? Most people are familiar with maybe a custom version of this type of interaction. But you know what's cooler than a notification is a notification with buttons. And so new in the London release, you'll now be able to add buttons to notifications from ServiceNow to Slack that actually hook up to workflow steps. So in this example, I've mocked up just a quick approvals workflow here. In ServiceNow, maybe you'd want to manage what the approval is for and who the approver might be. So we've created a notification that goes directly to a manager. So this message would appear in a direct message right to Maria, letting her know that she has a new request for approval coming from her employee named Edwin, because we like alliteration to remember who is who. And in the message, Maria can get quite a bit of information about the request that she's receiving. If she has enough information to approve the request, she can do it directly from that button in Slack. But since the request is for a $1,500 MacBook Pro, maybe when she wants to jump back into ServiceNow, she can do that via the request hyperlink up there in the blue. So you can see that with the addition of interactive elements in messages like these, kind of the whole wide world of workflows gets blown open between ServiceNow and Slack. We move from that just an incoming webhook style of event notification pushing into Slack to full workflow completion without having to leave the team communication tool. So here's 2 other examples of how that might work. Maybe you have a channel that manages your IT ticketing. So if someone requests that you change a router, maybe ServiceNow, users can open that ticket in ServiceNow and pipe the request directly into Slack, and then whoever is captaining that channel can either approve that request saying, yep, that ticket's on me, or reject it saying, nope, it needs to go somewhere else. Additionally, and on the right-hand side, you can see a custom integration that we actually built out here at Slack. You can imagine managing your entire help desk through a ticketing interaction like this. So tickets come into ServiceNow, get piped into your help desk channel, or multiple help desk channels, or direct messages, or groups, however you want to route them based on different elements. And then you can assign the ticket and update the status as it moves through your queue directly in Slack. So this kind of allows for the folks who need to be in ServiceNow, the administrators, to stay there and manage their workflows mostly in ServiceNow, and then for the folks who are doing most of their job in Slack to just handle those touchpoint communication elements directly via interactive messages without having to jump back and forth repeatedly. So these are just a few of the ways that our different partner companies are working to build robust and complex, flexible interactions within Slack, and I know that includes many of the developers in this room, so thank you for your work in that arena. We know that in order for our platform to thrive and for all our shared customers in this ecosystem to thrive, we need to support teams that don't employ engineers. We need to make sure that we're building tools that are flexible and configurable for companies that are, organic farms, public school systems, local governments. So the work that we do in this realm to make sure that things are flexible and customizable for the verticals that we're less familiar with, or maybe that we're designing for, are able to kind of support their needs. So with that, thank you very much. If you have questions or you want more information about any of the elements we discussed today, you can always tweet at us at Slack API.
I would say if you have questions about any of the partners that we highlighted or talked about here, they'll be hanging out at the booths at the Exposition Hub this afternoon. So come talk to us after. We finished a little bit early, which lucky for you all means you get an advanced chance to scoot over and grab some lunch, which I believe is after this. But definitely take the opportunity to speak to some of our partners here, and hopefully you can go back and if you're a developer, get excited about some of the things you can do with ServiceNow, and if you're not, and you want to figure out how you can bring some of these to your company and maximize your Slack usage, check out these partners of ours and get connected with how you can get them in your own ecosystem. So thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.